of us with you. So just welcome, everybody. Welcome, 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 welcome. And Meryl brought up meditation, that she's done a lot of meditation. And when we meditate, I'm assuming we've all done some type of meditation along the way. What do we find? Because in meditation, for me, it's often I can become aware of my thoughts, feelings, and sensations. And if I'm aware of them, I'm not identified as them. And then I get to rest as the beingness that I am. And we just use, when we apply IFS, we just call those thoughts, feelings, and sensations parts. Like Vipassana, they watch them go by as clouds. And then there's something called the pathless path, which is just, it's like, it's circumventing even going through meditation. And it's like going directly to this that we find when we meditate, this when we find when we're not identified with the parts, the thoughts, feelings, and sensations. And so just maybe we could even start there. In this pathless path, there's just, here I am as the radiance that I am, as the beingness that I am. It's revealed, the love that I am. When we're not entangled with our thoughts, feelings, and sensations, what do we find? What's here? What's here for you right now when you're not entangled? Do you find peace, stillness, okayness, ease, emptiness? What is it that you find here? From Kay, could you repeat, please? Yes. When we're not caught, blended, identified with our parts, with our thoughts, feelings, and sensations, what remains? What is this background that's always here, that just gets obscured from time to time? And what do you find of that that's here now? What is self? What is beingness that's here now? Is there peace here? Is there, Sarah often uses the word joy. Is there joy here? Is there a quiet joy that's just here? What is being for each of us? Is it a tenderness? Is it like a psychedelic experience? It's just an infinite spaciousness. An infinite spaciousness. What do you find? Is there a sense of timelessness, stepping out of time, stepping out of the future and the past? It's like an exquisite intimacy as the now. What is beingness for you? In a couple minutes, we'll go around and kind of get how beingness is showing up for each of us. And this is one of the kind of three goals of classic IFS. They call it self-leadership, the sense of abiding as this beingness of self. So how is it alive in you right now? How is this that is sought? The peace, love, causeless fulfillment, radiance. And how do you know it's here? Is it a feeling, like you can feel this aliveness, this spaciousness, this stillness? How do you know it's here? Is it a vibration, a frequency? How do you know beingness is here? And then are you aware of the beingness or are you aware as the beingness? This that we find on the other side of meditating for an hour. This beingness, this stillness, this peace, this love. Are you aware of it? Or this that is aware right now? Are you aware as it? Is it that? And lastly, is anything separate from this? Even though in IFS we play with these word parts, is anything truly separate from this beingness? And just for the next minute, as as we're being with this, what's it like to feel this beingness? What's it like to be this? Can we sink further in as this? Can we let it pervade us? Let it have us. Let our thoughts, our feelings, our movement, can let those be an expression of this beingness. As you're exploring, I'm just going to quickly do my little housekeeping, which is just, as you all know, I'm a mediator. I'm not a psychotherapist. So this isn't the IFS of psychotherapy. It's friends and colleagues exploring together. If everybody's good with being responsible for your own journeys, could I get a thumbs up from you, please? And secondly, I've got the recording on, which I always do, but only my square, only my image would ever be shared. However, what you share in audio could be shared because I make this available for some people who aren't coming, and sometimes I put it on my website and other places. And if there's any discomfort at all with having that be shared, just let me know and I'll make you a co-host, and you can just push pause before you share anything that you might be uncomfortable with. And that's my preference. And at the end, however, at the end, you realize, gosh, I wish I hadn't shared that. Just let me know. And I go delete, delete, delete. If everybody's good with this, if I could get a thumbs up from you, please. Awesome. So here we are. 8 of us are with you. Just before we open it up, this beingness, this self, this nature that you've been feeling inside of you and knowing, is it separate from ours? Is it your being or is it just being? Is it yourself or is it just self? Are these lines that are separating us on the screen? Is there really separation with this beingness or is it shared that we're all of the same beingness? And if so, Jack's got his lines. We got this line here. Got my wall. No, you're not it. This is my being. It's not it. But if that is true, what's that like? If it's a shared beingness, if we're all of this beingness, what's it like as we look in Sarah's face? If we see Meryl and Inga and Zoe, what's it like if it truly is a shared being? All right, that was a lot. I'd love to go around and hear from everybody. What did they find? What is this beingness that's here for you? And maybe just a kind of a quick round to hear that, and then we'll keep going. And who would like to go first?
Me.
Yay, Kay! What is beingness for you?
Um, it's something, it's not me. It's something that is inside of me, but it's not me, you know? I feel the difference. I can feel it. At the beginning of the day, I had around 22 things I was not feeling very good about. And now that you are saying this and we are all together, I feel the peace came like this. Nothing matters, only this self that we are talking about. It's amazing. And I was thinking also, looking at you, all of you, what would it be if we would be sitting in a big living room or in a dining room table all together? And I tried to imagine that, and it feels nice.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Yeah. Is there a difference now if we were sitting in a dining room table, sitting in a circle together than where we are right now?
It
This,
would be
this,
nicer. It
yeah,
would be nicer.
the shared being. But see if we can find the same sameness as if we were in a room together. And then Kay also mentions for her this beingness, this peace that's here. She had 22 things, and then there was this peace here. And whoa, this peace, that's where it is. And there's a real usefulness, a real skillful means in that separation that Kay is making. Oh, there are all these 22 things, and then there's this that isn't me, this peace, this self, this beingness. It's a very useful distinction to be able to know self and beingness. And then at the same time, we might be able to get a glimpse of that even those 22 things for all of us are not separate from this piece. And we just, however it plays in all of us. I'm just going to go around the way it kind of shows up on my screen here. And we guys kind of pop down to Vendor. Vendor, what is beingness for you today?
Um, it started with the spaciousness and just connection.
Beautiful. Well, let's check out those words for all of us. When we hear Vendor say spaciousness, spaciousness. What's most like spaciousness that's here for you now? What's most like spaciousness? And how do you know spaciousness is here? And if you're having difficulty find it, we've got Vendor here, and we can just kind of connect with spaciousness through her like a tuning fork. Oh, now I got it. And then Vendor also used the word connectedness. This is a tricky one. Like an uppercase C connectedness, a connectedness that's just causelessly here. It's not here because we see Inga and we just adore Inga. It's like, gosh, I feel connected with Inga, right? That can be like a personal lowercase c that connects it, but then there's just this connectedness that's always here, that is here. Thank you, Vendor. Zoe, what's beingness for you?
Hi, everybody. Today in this moment, it's a tenderness and compassion. I'm physically struggling today, and so there's parts that are resenting my body and wishing to push through it. And then as I settled, it was, oh, okay. Actually, there was just tenderness for a body that needs to rest.
This
Mm.
tenderness, Zoe, where do you find it? This tenderness for all of us, tenderness. As we hear it in Zoe, as we hear physical challenges today, body just needs to rest. And then it's just being met by a tenderness of this beingness. Can we relate to that? Can we find that as a quality of self, not as a part that's like, oh, I know what to do. I can bring some tenderness here. There's just finding the tenderness that is intrinsic in your nature. How does that show up in your system, Zoe?
I guess my body just started to relax more into the chair and just kind of let go. So I guess it's somatically, yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Mm.
How do we, for each of us, whatever's most like tenderness that's here, is there a somatic response like Zoe has? Might be the body, or it could be parts. Do we have parts that just kind of relax? Oh, there's tenderness here. I'm being held in tenderness. Something relaxes. Maybe the voice changes, the breath changes when there's tenderness here. And lastly, with that one, do you have parts that are yearning for tenderness? As the sense of letting the system be healed, they call it attachment wounds, like parts that they didn't get what they needed when they were young or somewhere in life, and they just yearning to come home. And what are they yearning for? Do you have some? If you said there's tenderness here, everybody, who wants tenderness? Raise your hand. And you feel into your system. Do you have parts that raise their hand like, yes, tenderness, that's what I want? And can they feel it? Can they feel the tenderness that is here as self? And then Zoe also mentioned compassion. This is another one of those tricky words because there's this just the compassion that is intrinsic in your being. There's just a compassion and love for everything that's here. And then there's a compassion that kind of responds. It hears about Zoe's physical challenge, and it just, there's a part that has compassion for her. See if you can discern the two. And what's it like? What's it like for this compassion that is your nature, this love that is your nature? What's it like to soak in that, for your parts to soak in that? And do you have parts? If you said, hey, everybody, compassion's here. Do you have parts that are yearning to be met by compassion, that are yearning to come home in this love and understanding? Thank you, Zoe. Inga, what's being in you today?
Thanks, Sid. Well, it's good to hear from everybody here, and it's just this vast empty space, but it's not really empty, you know, it's so close and warm. It's okay. So there's, I don't know, I guess that's, it might just be, well, my partner, you know, the one that's like, okay, let's make sense of this comes in right now.
So,
But I experienced it as this deep, deep peace, okayness, and stillness,
mhm.
which is amazing because I relate to Zoe, you know, being with physical pain, just my parts called incredible pain. And it's just okay.
So how about this for all of us? So we heard the words that Inga shared, but what about her voice? As we hear her voice, as we felt Inga, because as she speaks about this, it sounds so yummy, right? It's like, hey, I want to experience that too. And like she can help us find it by how she shared this vast empty space. Vast empty space. But it's not so far away. It's close. She describes there's an intimacy and there's a warmth in this vast empty space. And in that there's a deep space, deep peace. So it's not just like this emptiness. It's a deep peace there. An okayness, a stillness. How are we doing? Can we taste this? Can we taste what Inga's sharing with us? What's most like that which is here for us now? This deep peace, this warmth. And then let's make it real. Let's have it be a gift. Like, why do we? So it's like maybe like, so who cares? There's deep peace here. Who cares? But let's let it be a gift. Like, why are we doing all of this? For our parts. Our parts get to come home. We get to come home to self, to beingness. And so if we asked again to your parts, everything that arises in you, anything that has a want, who would love this? Who would love this deep peace, this warmth, this intimacy? Who inside? What parts? Especially young parts and ones that might be still in the basement. Notice any of them like that, what Inga's describing, this warmth, this peace, this stillness. Who wants that? Which parts want that? And then can they feel it? Can they feel the presence of deep peace, that it's here now in you? What's it like? And how do you know they're feeling it? Does something relax? Does something go smile? Does someone have an expression like Sarah's face? It's like, oh, I like this. What's it like for you? Thank you, Inga. And we'll just continue going around. We'll go to Meryl, Sarah, Jack, and Raymond and talking about beingness. But I want to promise you, we're not going to neglect the other side of this. And then from here, we're going to go to the other side. We're going to hear from everybody as far as the parts. Like, where is the discomfort? The Zoe system, physically, there's discomfort here. Like, because this is a celebration of everything that arises in us. Meryl, how'd this go for you? Like, you inspired it, talking about mentioning meditation. Like, well, what's there when Meryl meditates? What do we find? What do you find? What's new?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I actually have really struggled with meditating recently, and part of why I've been really grateful to IFS because that's a place I can still kind of go. I really struggle with finding a peaceful space. And I thought that's all I was going to have to say when you got to me, but I will say that as the other people, the rest of you have been speaking, that whether it's a part or if it's like a, finding that space, I've definitely started to feel more kind of gratitude and sort of a hopefulness, just other people sort of carrying that for all of us, sharing their sense of the spaciousness and the openness.
Beautiful. So what about that word that Meryl just shared? Gratitude. Does something have to happen for us to have gratitude? Someone have to be like, oh, Inga shared the most beautiful thing. I'm grateful for that. Or could gratitude just be like this yes, this openness, this welcoming that we are, that the nature is, like Sarah's face. It's just like, there's this gratitude for what is. Baron Katie calls it loving what is. There's just like this gratitude. What's most like that in your system? And this can be a stretch, this one. But notice, can you touch that? Can you touch a gratitude that is just intrinsic in your nature? Thank you. Thank you, Meryl, again, for opening up something so beautiful for us. Thank you. Okay. Before we go to Sarah, why don't we this is a lot. This is a lot doing all this. And this is, again, the whole idea with our game is you already are the beauty and perfection and innocence that you seek. That was on my email this time. Like, you already are what you seek. That Raymond's dog said. Raymond's dog is called Rumi, and Rumi said that. You already are what you're seeking. It's like, what are you talking about? But it's the idea that we're just playing, that there's really, I love saying this. We're only going from here to here, right? It's kind of a joke. We're just here. And there's no place to go, nothing to do. We're just playing together. We're celebrating life. We're celebrating what's arising in us. The possibility that nothing needs to change, that just what Meryl described. How could you ever find anything missing in Meryl? I mean, look at that. Just the beauty of what is, just the way she is, just the way each of us are. We're playing with that possibility. I call that the pathless path. And then we're meeting and welcoming and celebrating and any healing everything that wants to happen, we can welcome all of that. And then if it helps to shake it all off a little bit, because it was a lot to follow Meryl with gratitude and can go into connectedness and the spaciousness and all of this that we've done so far. It's a lot. It's like, whoa, that's a workout. It's like I've been lifting 1,000 pounds, because we're about to go to Sarah and Jack and Raymond. So there's more. Okay, everybody ready? All right, Sarah, what's beingness in you?
In this moment, just a peaceful feeling of just gratitude.
What's that like? The gratitude, what's that like to be in gratitude?
It's a sense of feeling so privileged, just so blessed. And it's just a feeling of, oh, I get to be here. I get to experience this. I'm just so grateful. I'm so blessed. I'm just, oh, what an honor. What a privilege to be here in this moment and to just share and just be here. And it just brings up a lot of feelings, just a sense of just overwhelmed with all these emotions, a sense of gratitude and everything that we take for granted. It just came up to me. Oh, you have like a million things to be grateful for, and just being here. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Meryl, for bringing up the gratitude part.
So how about where Sarah went with it? And maybe just your mind, there might be an understanding part, a thinker part about it. We got that. And then there's just the resonance. sense of the tuning fork. Like, what gift is Sarah offering us from so blessed just to be here, just to be, just to be. Can we feel what's most like that in your system? And maybe Sarah can help some of us. She helps me find this. So blessed. And then in terms of the healing our system and this abiding as self, does it really have to go any further than what Sarah's pointing to? She says it's just being so blessed. You see the fullness in that, the absence of lack, in this, when this gratitude is here, so blessed. It's like loving this moment, loving what is. What's most like that in your system? And then also just to be kind to us all, what parts come up? You might have parts coming up. It's like, whoa, I don't know about that, or I see it differently, or I can't go there right now, or I go there a different way. And whatever parts are coming up, can they just all be welcomed? All of whatever parts are arising in you today, can they just be welcomed? Even one that might be comparing or criticizing. Even that, like, oh, how beautiful. Thank you, Sarah. And then just if it might help to take a breath because we're about to go to Jack and he's gonna hit us with something here. Here it comes. All right, Jack, what you got? We can't hear you, Jack.
Can you guys hear the lawn noise that's outside? Or not too much? Good, good. So what I came here today with was the idea, story maybe, whatever you want to call it, to look for what I'm numb to what we're looking for. Okay. You talk about, okay, what are your parts looking for, right? When you're trying to describe self, right? So this sort of, I ran into this last night and said I'd bring it. The idea of, can I become numb to what I'm looking for? And
What are you looking for, Jack?
that,
What are you looking for? And wait, as I ask Jack that, let me just ask us all that. What are we looking for? What is it that we really want? What is it that we really, really want? All right, what you got, Jack?
um, there's a sense that I'm looking for, it's like I'm looking for something not to be quite right, maybe. Okay. So what I'm looking for is any kind of time that I feel like I'm turning away from something, whatever it is. The sense of, oh, or I don't really, I'm looking for, because we've all been talking about this open, warm, loving acceptance, right? So I'm looking for, is is whatever I'm calling this ever turning away, right?
So let's pause for just a minute with that. Just so Jack's been doing this a really long time. So there's this beautiful subtlety in what he's sharing with us here and for me. And it's like, yes, there's this gratitude, this Sarah, this loving what is that we've been playing with Sarah, this warmth, this ocean, this acceptance. But then Jack's pointing to the curiosity about whenever there's a resistance, whenever there's a turning away inside, whenever there's a kind of a no or a subtle no. And what about that in each of us? What about that? The resistance, the no, the preference, the want. And what if that is fully included, Because here my question is for all of us with this one is what's being longed for when there is that no? When Zoe's like, God, I won't get the part that's kind of a no to what is. I want my body to feel better. I don't want to feel tired. I want to be in pain. Even it might be really subtle, but the no that comes up in us, and we'll follow Jack's in just a moment. What is it longing for? What is the no? What are the no's longing for? Are they longing for peace, okayness, love, unity, connectedness, care, flow? What are they longing for? All right, back to you, Jack.
Yeah. There's a sense of capital S self really, really at, it's hard for me to talk about it, but it's like there's no agenda there at all. Completely accepting, completely letting go when things disappear. So the parts, maybe the parts get, maybe the parts get numb to that a little bit. Like, because they'll interpret it however they want to interpret it. They'll say,
It
oh,
knows,
it loves everything. Oh, it doesn't care about anything. So the parts will get numb to that sense
right.
because they're interpreting it through their own view, right? Well,
So
it's not they can do. That's they can't do anything else.
So let me
So
check with everybody with what you're saying. Can we all find parts? Like, you remember in the 80s, there used to be this Valley Girl thing. They said, oh, whatever. Like parts that would say whatever, or parts that like, oh, yeah, okay, you do your spiritual stuff, but like, hey, there's real life stuff to do. Or like the parts that are just like kind of discounting, the parts that are discounting all of this. They're discounting self. Like, yeah, self is here. Like all this that Sarah points to, it's here, but kind of so what? I get it. So now what? Can you find parts that are like that? And these ones that Jack's pointing to, and then again, what do those points what? The one that says whatever, or this, I don't really care, this really isn't helping me, or this is just some kind of spiritual Disneyland. Or it's just like, we've been here, done it for a lot of years, and it's just not giving me what I want. Those parts that are like that, what is it that they want? And that's my last question for you, Jack. What is it that is wanted by these parts?
it depends on the part. It's so many different things. It's not even worthwhile to even try to summarize them because they all want what they want. I mean, that's just what parts do, right?
Give us two examples.
Um, there's a part that wants to understand the difference between blending with something or identifying with something and completely being open to it and loving it. So there's a part that wants to know that difference.
Got it. So understanding, a part that wants more understanding of this kind of this particular discernment, and you have another part that wants what?
That it wants all kinds of impossible things. It wants to know what it doesn't know.
Okay, great. Great. And so just for each of us, what's our examples of this for parts that say no or parts that are still kind of resisting and what do they long for? And then can we go a little deeper into that longing? Like for Jax, there's a part that just wants to understand this clearer. It wants this understanding. But what does it get with that understanding? If we take it a little deeper, if the part gets understanding, what does it find? Oh, there's peace, there's safety, there's okayness, there's flow. It's just if we can take it deeper for each of us. And this other one that wants to know what it doesn't know, if it gets that, what does it find? What does it ultimately find? And I'm going to suggest it's always a quality of self. And what's that in your system? Because we can fall in love with these parts because they're just wanting to bring us home to self. This peace, this love, this okayness. Good for now, Jack, or is there anything
Yeah,
I've
I mean, it's easy for the self to love the parts, not always so easy for the parts to think that highly of the self, I guess, and sometimes, I guess, you know what I mean? It's, and that's okay. I mean, I'm completely okay with that.
So, so what's it like for all of us when we have a part? It's like, God, I really want to understand this, or I want to make sense of this, or I want to know this is really gonna work. The stuff that Inga and Zoe and Sid are all speaking about. It's like I want to know that I can trust this. Like these parts that are resistant, that are saying no. What if we just listen to them closer? Like if we get even more intimate with them as far as what is it that it really wants? Just like if I did it, if when someone does that with you, said, "Oh, Sarah, tell me more. I want to know more about you and more about what you really want." It feels yummy, doesn't it? And then it feels yummy. And then it gets to be revealed. Well, what I really want is, and I'm going to, enough on that. Thank you, Jack. All right. Okay, we might need to shake a little bit because we got our finale with Raymond, and we're going to change. We're going to shift. Okay, here we go. Raymond, what do you and Rumi have to say?
Well, the first thing, Sid, you talked about what does beingness feel like, or what's your experience of it. So ultimately for me, it's invisibility. So I'm invisible. The only reason you can see me is because I'm wearing a body. Other than that, I'm invisible, and I think you are too. So I would say that it's invisible. And I'll also say up front, Sid, I always like to caveat these things with my own humanity, which is I've experienced everything that I can hear other people talking about at different times. But being that invisibility, means there's no person there. When I'm completely invisible, like Ram Dass would talk about becoming nobody, and we can't do that. My ego can't do that. It can't say, right, I'm going to become nobody. But we kind of use the mind and the ego somehow to return ourselves to the self.
A question,
So,
Raymond.
yes.
Question. This beingness that we're called, that ultimately this invisibility, that there's no person, no body, this beingness. Is it does it feel like empty, or does it feel like alive? Does it feel open? Does it feel loving? Does it feel what's your sense of it? And how does it, or there are
So I
different
think
levels of it. For some, it's like said, there's just absolute emptiness. But then if I do a little concession and move up a little bit, then I feel love and okayness. Yeah, how do you know it? What's it like?
so. It's like electricity. So, like electricity, you can't see it, but as soon as it touches something, well, it's there. So, and I like what there's one scripture that says this. It says, "The kingdom of heaven is not a matter of talk; it's a matter of power." But at the same time, so again, my own experience is that. So sometimes I need to put on my earth suit to go and socialize in the world. But when I don't need to do that, like it's almost like I need to inflate my ego, like, pump it up with the air. It becomes like one of those things that float outside car showrooms, like that.
Yes.
And then it deflates. And so for me, in terms of power, my ego is deflated, it loses power. So if thoughts come, which is kind of like the ego, my ego would now need to try really hard to move, whereas it's moving inside this invisibility. And also, as progressively I surrender constantly, and when I'm out of my mind, in terms of my full attention or my full awareness, I'm also out of time.
Yes.
So everything.
Raymond, let me check with everybody on this, because this is you're taking us way, way, way someplace. And let me just see how everybody's doing with this. when Raymond speaks of almost like the deflation of the ego, of the identity of the body, something deflates, and then there's just this invisibility, there's just the beingness. How do you relate to that? In IFS, we just use the word self for this beingness, and then parts for what Raymond's pointing to as the ego. And what Raymond says at some point, the parts when they're not blended, when they're not grasping, all that's left is beingness. And he's even calling it invisible. And he's also using the word timeless for it. Does that translate for us? And even the sense of, this is kind of subtle, location. Like when we talk about parts, I'll often ask you, where do you find that part? Where do you find the one that is curious and that wants to understand? Where do you find the part that's like, oh, I have something I want to say, it's my turn. You can hear like in the head, in the heart, outside of you, a sense of location for parts. But then they describe this beingness as this is Raymond's invisibility, that it's just here. That's why, like Ram Dass used the word, uses like be here now, here now. Like it's almost like no location. It's just here now as this beingness. And then you've got the parts. And if you have, and for any of us right now, if you have parts like, God, I'm not really following what Raymond's saying, this seems very conceptual, perfect. And just like love that just where it is, because there's no place we have to go. There's nothing at all that needs to be understood. And then see if, my last question for all of us is, what's it like hearing Raymond? How are we responding inside? Often I talk about the Rumi's guest house. It's like we just get to welcome all the guests, everything that arises. Or is there a sense of self welcoming Raymond, welcoming what he's sharing, and just welcoming it? And do we also have parts that are like, God, I'm trying to understand this, but I can't follow this. This is, or a part that may be comparing, like, whoa, I should be invisible too. And whatever's arising, can they all just be welcomed in us? To be welcomed. Back to you, Raymond.
So I'll just say two quick things, Sid, and then we can move on. So I'm fully present now. I don't have any other thoughts other than looking at this screen. But there's a subtle difference, and this is the thing about the missing person, which is rather than me saying, I find myself in presence, maybe I'm saying I find myself as presence. So when it's fully presence, and actually I'll add this little bit, whenever my person appears, that's when problems appear. They always appear to the person and are always related to the person. And also to finish with what Rumi said, you talked about Rumi, and all I've described there, Sid, is normally I'm clothed with a person and a personality and an ego and all that. When that gets stripped bare and I'm just naked as my real unchanging self, then there is no such a thing as a person. But concessionally and at times, you operate as a person in this world. So I kind of need the person suit to function, right, but I don't need it to be.
Okay. What's that like for all? How do we translate what Raymond just shared? Is it just like, I have absolutely no idea what he was talking about? What was that? What was that like? A couple things. In IFS, see if this is true for you. The only problem can ever be being blended with a part. If I'm not blended with a part, can there be a problem here? If you're not blended with a part, in IFS it's just self or parts, right? If I'm not blended with a part, there's just self. And is there ever anything lacking or missing or needing to be changed in self? At the same time, when I say being blended, to only being blended with a part that can be a problem. At the same time, we love being blended with. We love our parts. We love everything about us. We love the preciousness of, look at the 9 of us. The preciousness of the personality of the one that Sarah loves getting Amazons in the mail. It's like, oh, what's my next package coming? What's going to be? Jack loves understanding. Jack and I love talking about all of this, the intellectual fun of it all. And it's like, and then it's like Inga and I, there's Inga with us. There's love going into the vastness. There's something that just enjoys the vastness. It's like the preciousness of our parts, that they all get to be celebrated. The idea here is this is a celebration of you and your parts, everything that arises. So as Raymond speaks about the nakedness, it's really lovely because it's where Meryl started us off today. It's like, what is meditation? But that discernment between all of our clothes, our parts, the thoughts, feelings, and sensations, the clouds that come and go, and the sky, this that's always here, this that we call self, that Raymond's speaking of as nakedness. We're just getting that discernment, and Raymond's he's riffing for us on it. He's giving us a little riff, a little poetry. Another thing Raymond said, I can find myself in presence, and I can also find myself as presence. And this goes back to that question, are you aware of self or are you aware as self? See if we can find the discernment there, and we're about to take a break. And the last thing, I think that's enough. All right, let's shake us all off, guys, because we're gonna transition now. That was a lot. That was a lot, and Raymond gave us quite a finale. And I'm curious to open this up and to see what's bubbling and how we're doing. We're kind of halfway through today, and we've been focusing on self. We've been focusing on beingness. We've been focusing on the sky, this nakedness. But then there are precious parts. There are precious parts that arise. To celebrate those, to enjoy those, to see the innocence and beauty in our parts. To celebrate our parts. And so I'm wondering, how are we doing? But first, Meryl is new with us, and she's like, oh my God, what did I step into today? Let me check with Meryl, and I know Inga's leaving early, and Sarah sometimes leaves early, so I want to get to both of those guys before they disappear on us today. But let's start with Meryl. How's it going, Meryl? How's it going there?
It's okay. It's okay. Uh, I I've appreciated listening to everybody. I think that, it's interesting. As I said, I have a hard time kind of getting there. I have a hard time finding that spaciousness or that self, but I know I must be close when things happen, like everyone looks so beautiful to me. Like you're the most beautiful, attractive people I've ever seen. So I know I'm in a really good space. I have a lot of parts come up that are super, super uncomfortable with being in groups, even with like a feeling of sort of danger of getting to being in kind of a spacious place. And so it can be a real struggle. Like, I had some tears coming in. It was like, so not me, I've been so managed my whole life. And so I know it's a good thing that if tears come, and I appreciate you all for your words kind of breaking me open a little bit, but that also immediately, puts up walls like, whoa, like too vulnerable, too vulnerable.
So have we all just fallen in love with Meryl? Because fallen in love with her? And everything she said, like none of it's foreign to us, right? It's like the sense of, well, when the spaciousness opens, something gets a little scared inside. Something gets a little warnings come up inside. We all know that. Can we find that in our own system, that something gets scared? Something can get scared as this opens up, especially when we listen to Raymond talk. It's like, oh, I'm not going there. Raymond, did you have something?
Yeah, just when I heard Meryl there, and again, I'm perfectly human, but I'm also perfectly divine. And what I think all of my parts that have arisen many times in different forms with different energies over the years, every single one of them, and this might mean different things to different people, I'll say it like this: wanted to be accepted.
Mm.
I would say loved normally, but that can be a triggering for people. Every single part of me wanted to be accepted and wanted to feel unafraid.
Beautiful. Thank you. So when we hear Raymond describe that in his system, because we're all like all of our systems are different and similar, and like in his for Raymond, every part that goes to me, it wanted to be accepted, wanted to be accepted. Do we have parts that are just, hey, it's that simple. I just want to be accepted just the way I am, just the way I am. And then as we get to know self, this is the really great news. As we get to know self, wait a minute, the self is acceptance. It just loves what is. It's this that Sarah was speaking. It just like loves what is. This gratitude that Meryl opened the door for us. And then, how about that, the being accepted? Did you hear what Meryl said about you today? Do you hear what she said about you, Vendor? She said that you are the most beautiful, attractive people I've ever seen. How's that? How's that for you to be you, Kay, Inga, Jack, the most beautiful, attractive people I've ever seen? Isn't this lovely as we get to be together? Like if our parts really are like what Raymond was describing, they just want to be accepted, seen, loved just the way they are. And we don't have to do it by ourselves. We've got Meryl here. Hey, it's like, yeah, we got Meryl here loving our parts. Thank you, Meryl. And lastly, you said something about being in groups, that kind of fears come up. Like, can we all find that, right? A protector that comes up. It's like, okay, don't say anything stupid. Don't say anything stupid. I gotta be, and it's just like, oh, aren't they wonderful? Our protectors that take care of us. It's like, okay, you got to be careful. You're in a group. You don't know everybody here, you know? And aren't they great? Aren't they lovely looking out for us? All right, we have leaving early. We've got Zoe, Inga, and Sarah. Who wants to go next? If you guys are just, I don't know, wherever we want to go.
Zoe, why don't you go next? I can leave a little after the top of the hour, so I can wait.
I guess what came up was listening to Jack, and when he was speaking, I recognized that I'm familiar with that within myself, that saying no. And more recently, I've been more aware of the way in which parts say no to what's happening physically in my body, and are uncomfortable, and really, really actually don't want to listen to what my body's saying and want to somehow shut it down. I'm a bit kind of curious because my parts are to be found in my body. So yeah, that I'm kind of questioning. Oh, is that must be parts saying no to each other, because there's parts in my body. Yeah.
So what's just first for all of us, where Zoe's leading us here? Parts that say no to what's happening in the body, that want it to be different.
Yeah.
There's discomfort, there's tiredness. Parts like, God, I don't want this. I want to be different right now. I want to be alive, vivacious. I want to have fun. It's like the parts that say no and have a preference. God, I wish my leg didn't hurt. I wish my back didn't hurt. I wish my eyes didn't hurt. I want it to be different. And then Zoe says there's also a sense of even wanting to shut it down, like shut it down. It's like ones that just want to perhaps get away from the discomfort. Can we all find that? Can we all find those parts, those voices, those arisings within us that have a resistance, that have a no to what's happening in the body? And again, Part of the theme here is it's a celebration of everything that arises in us, in you, in Zoe, and Meryl, and Sarah, and Jack, and Sid, everything that arises, including especially these no's. And so how do we celebrate what's arising in Zoe here and in each of us? And I want to suggest it's to see the innocence and beauty in this message. The premise of IFS is that there are no bad parts. Every part is doing its very best for us. And so these parts that say no to the body, to what's happening, what is it that they're longing for in you and each of us? What is really being longed for in this no? What's the yes? What is being longed for? What do you find, Zoe? These parts that just want to shut it down, that don't want to listen to the body. What is it that they really want?
I get they want to be there's something around pain. They want to somehow avoid the pain and the suffering.
Okay, great. And so they want to avoid the pain and the suffering. We all can relate to that, right? Something wanting to avoid the pain and suffering. And so when we avoid the pain and suffering, what do we get then? What's found if they're successful? What do they get? What do they really want?
Peace.
Peace. Like Zoe's word is peace. What's that for each of us? When our parts that want to avoid the pain and suffering of the body, like what is it that they really, really long for then? Is it peace? Is it Zoe's word peace, or is it different? Is it ease? Is it flow? Is it okay? Is it relaxation? Is it joy? Is it okayness? What's your word for let's just go around really quick and just do one word apiece, just real quick. We've got peace. Inga, what's your word?
Well, the longing is love.
Love. Thank you. Meryl, what's yours?
Freedom.
Freedom. Raymond.
Fearless.
Fearless. Sarah.
Safety.
Again?
Safety.
Safety. Thank you. Jack.
Liberation.
Liberation. Kay.
It is okay.
Okay. Thank you. Vendor.
Acceptance.
Acceptance. Nice. What's that like? Can we find, what of this can we find inside of each of us? These words that are long for love. What's most like love that's here? Freedom. What's most like freedom? Fearlessness. Peace. Can we find these qualities in our intrinsic nature? Safety. That's a really hard one for a lot of systems to find. Safety, that it's here causelessly, that there's safety here. How will you find that? Where is that safety? Okayness. There's just so causelessly, there's okayness here. Acceptance. This word of Raymond's is acceptance. Back to you, Zoe. What's it like inside? How's it going?
Yeah, my system, parts enjoyed hearing all those different words. It did, yeah. And yeah, they just what came was, the parts just wanting to, to feel held. Yeah.
And then parts that just wanted to feel held. What's it like for all of our parts right now? Because we just talked about like what is that no, the parts that say no, they want it different. And what we tried to do was kind of celebrate what it is that they really want. That list that we just went around, the peace, the acceptance, the okayness, like what they really want. What's that like for your parts to be listened to in that way, to have that intimacy and care? Oh, sweetheart, what is it that you really want? That there really is an interest in what they want. There's not just, oh my God, there's that voice again telling me I'm not okay or something needs to change. Instead, it's like, what is it that you really want? And could they hear, can those parts hear what Meryl said? That you are the most beautiful, attractive people, most attractive parts, most beautiful and attractive parts I've ever seen. Can your parts feel, the ones that say no, that we're interested, but instead of resisting them or wanting them to change, that we're truly interested in them just the way they are? Anything else, Zoe?
Yeah, just aware that when the first word that came up for me was peace, and I think that was because there's this sense of parts, in resistance to each other, pulling in different, in a different way to each other, and so yeah, the friction of that is that there's friction there, and there's just something around, being able to hold both places, as it were.
What about that? Can we all
Yeah,
find that? And I'm also noticing we're on the hour, and I want to
yeah.
get around to everybody, which we're gonna have to go. We're gonna have to do a fun dance today. But what Zoe just said, well, it's really the parts that are in resistance to each other. They like, can we find that even with that no, even that no that comes to the discomfort in the body? Do we find that there are other parts and there's resistance? Oh gosh, that no, I'm so tired of that. Or a spiritual achiever, no, we need to accept everything. That resistance, and this is where this game is different than Meryl mentioned doing a lot of IFS. This effortless IFS is a little different because we zoom out and we see if we can become aware of all of these parts and see them in one view. The resistance, the polarity, can we see those in one view? Almost like they're on a stage. There are these parts on a stage, and can they be welcomed? Just this gratitude, this love, can they be welcomed just the way they are, that nothing needs to change? Oh, sweet, there's a no, and there's a spiritual achiever that wants to be different. There's another part. Wow, how about this theater of Zoe? Isn't it awesome? And what about our own theater? Thank you. Any good, Zoe? Anything? Any final words?
Yeah, I'm just writing. Thanks for welcoming all my parts, everybody, and holding them all. And thanks. Yeah, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. And Sarah, before we go to Inga, will you promise me that you'll give us a chance to hear from Sarah before you disappear?
I am leaving.
Oh no!
You go first, Sarah, please.
Well, it is Zoe's sharing. It brought up the parts she mentioned that want to avoid pain. It really brought up these parts in me as well. The ones that want safety, and it's also connected to what Raymond was talking about, the ego. And immediately it brought up how Dick Schwartz speaks about ego, how there is no ego. There's just a bunch of protectors that are just trying to do their job and protect the system. And I just recognize these parts in me, the ego parts that are just protectors, trying to protect the system, trying to avoid pain because they want safety. And I just felt so much understanding and so much gratitude for these parts, these ego parts, protectors. And I just felt the intensity of these protectors, how they're just so fierce. They're like on a mission. I heard the one that says never again, never ever again. And it's just so rigid, this part. It's a protector that feels like, oh, we're never ever going there again because that hurts. So we need to protect the system. So this one is just so strong, and just I had to be with that part for a little bit. And I realized it's never going away. It's just always going to be there, and it will just keep saying, "Oh, never, never again, not going there." And it brings up a lot of feelings in me, and I wish I had more time, but yeah, this is what I can share for today. So thank you so much.
Before you go, Sarah, just how about that for all of us? There wasn't the word to feel the gentleness in her system, the understanding. They're just protectors. They're doing their best to protect. Even the ones that say never again and the rigidness of those, you could feel her understanding of those, the welcoming of those parts. Wow, they just want safety. They just want to protect. They just want this system to be safe. As, as we receive this gift from Sarah, does it help our system open up to more understanding, more compassion, where they're just protectors doing their very best? Sarah, thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Sid. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
So how about that? I just don't want to rush too quickly from what Sarah just did. By the way, I think she's going to be like one of the great IFS people. We're watching her system change so quickly in the way she's going into this. I'm hoping that she'll start facilitating from this. Inga. Oh, okay, yeah.
Shall I?
Well, Inga has to leave. It's very soon. Could we hit her first and then go to you? Awesome. Inga!
Thank you, Sid. Thank you, Kay. I want to say parts of me are just lately, I feel a lot of just being sentimental might be the best way to say it, or parts getting very moved, like a lot of sweet feelings, and that just happened. And also, I don't want to talk too long, but one thing that came up for me is lately this that there's this voice saying, letting my parts know how much every part of me and every part of the universe, every one of you is so loved. Love beyond words, It's not me, it's everything and everyone. I think it's just such a beauty.
What's it like, Inga, to receive that? For you to soak in that, for your parts to soak in just everything is so loved. What's it like to have that sense of being held in that sense of home, that love that you're describing for all of us and for all of us, whatever we can find of what Inga's pointing to, or we can just tune into Inga. What's it like for us to rest in that, to be held in that? What do you find, Inga?
Oh, for a part, it's like finally hearing those words, finally hearing and really getting that. Like when the voice is saying, I love you from here to the end of the universe and back. Love you beyond words.
Love you beyond words. And you have parts that are just, yes, that's what I was waiting for. That's what I really needed. I needed that plus what Meryl was saying.
Yeah.
It's like that. I love you beyond words. Really, can you have parts that are like me, me, me? I want to receive that. And they like get in line. They all want this. And they soak it up. For all of us, do we have parts that just want to be received that way?
So then I would love to just, I don't know, be able to give that, or like to others, like to let them know there's this, if I had only, I don't know, a couple of days to live, I mean, that's it, that's what I want to, yeah.
And so what obscures that? What keeps that from shining through? That's where we started today with this radiance of your being.
Yeah.
What Meryl took us, the meditation. It's like, well, when we meditate, those things, the clouds, we get get space, and so the beingness gets to shine through. The clarity that you're speaking of, Inga. I love you beyond words, and like, what obscures that for all of us? Just being this fulfillment, this peace, this love, this radiance that we are. What you got, Inga?
Oh, for me, parts come up and say, well, it's not safe, to get so close to other people. That just comes up, and all of a sudden sometimes there's this sense of things closing down. Yeah.
Oh, Raymond's. Oh, hang on, just
Oh.
1 minute, Inga.
Hmm.
Raymond, I think Raymond has to leave. Raymond, will you tell us something? You and Rumi, give us something before you go.
I didn't want to do that, Sid, because I really am very sensitive to the depth at what Inga's sharing. So I will say something, Inga, but know that I am very sensitive of even interrupting the beautiful way you're expressing yourself. But what I will say, Sid, is for me, and this takes some time for it to happen, pain is just a word that points to energy that feels like it's difficult. And what changes over time is not pain doesn't disappear, but my relationship to pain has changed. And it's a bit like what Inga's just embodied there, where I love all aspects of difficult energy. You might call it pain, but I love all of that now, even if it feels difficult. So, love you guys. Bless you. I need to go make tea for my son. Okay.
Thank you, Raymond.
See you later. Bye bye. Rumi, get your head in it.
Inga, back to you, Inga. And I just love the humanity of this. It's just like as Inga is giving us such a profound sense of self that just it loves you beyond. And then at the same time, there's the humanness that it's like, but wait a minute, it's not safe. It's not completely safe to be that close to people or whatever parts that come up, just all of it. What you got, Inga? How's this going? What's it like to be you in this?
So there are also parts that are very much. I have a little girl, and she might be, I don't know, 1.5 years old, and she really wants to offer that. She's just the sweetest thing ever. I was like, gosh, she just wants to go to people and hug them and say, I love you so much. You're just the most wonderful person in the world, and I'm so glad to see you, and I love you. And then there's the fear of, well, people might not like that. There's well, thank you for letting me share this.
So
Thank
beautiful.
you all for being here.
Thank you, Inga. What's this like for all of us? What Inga shared? What's it like? The two, this love beyond love. It's just, and then this fear. I don't know if this is safe. What's it like to have all of that play in us, or how it plays in you, your version of it? We've got 17 minutes left. And the day's been a little different because we spent so much time focusing on self, and want to make sure that we get to Jack, to Vinder, to Meryl, and Kay. And so let's just do our best. Before we go to Kay, anything bubbling?
I'm just going to say bye.
Oh,
But I love you so much. And thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
Bye.
anything bubbling? From Jack. Be right back. All right, Kay, what's happening?
I thought it was big red book and be right back. And I want to say I am having terrible headaches. Never had them in my life before, so strong. And I started thinking it's because of the IFS work. I think so, because right now I started to have it again, And then I said, take it easy. It's because of the parts want to do or say something, and the headache disappeared, you know? That's why I think it has to do with this.
So how about that? Meryl's nodding too. I think she knows this as well. It's like, and so what about that for all of us? The somatic experience of the parts, especially tension and discomfort. When we have, what do you think it is, Kay? What part? You have a part that says no, a part that resists, or a sense of a polarity. What do we think it's coming from? Or today, when it started to come up, could you track what part was arising or what was occurring when the headache came?
I wrote down the word fear. Fear, on one side, it's fear of the body illness that I cannot control. But then the word came, I said okayness and acceptance from every part. That's when I think the headache started to come down. But I want to tell you also something. I never wanted to go to sleep so much as today. And I had a good night's sleep, you know, but I wanted to close my eyes and sleep. So there's something here with the headache, and I wanted to sleep, that is happening with the parts. I don't know what it is yet.
Great. Well, can we celebrate this? Can we celebrate, because this is very common in IFS, a part that wants to go to sleep. Like for a couple years, I would just start yawning when things would get uncomfortable here. I mean, literally yawning, but there was a tiredness would come. And just, can we appreciate there's a part that finds relief there? Maybe it's for relief. It finds that in tiredness. Okay, this is enough. It's, and it just wants that. And then you speak about control. And this is a very common one that comes up because we've really been going into spaciousness, and I know all that's going on in your life, that some of what you've been sharing, it gets scary. I forget who described that the spaciousness can become scary. Maybe it was Meryl that was talking about this openness. I forget who said that. And then we have a controlling part that says this is not safe. I don't know if this is safe. A controlling part comes in when the spaciousness, the openness, the flow, the ease, the love comes in. Sometimes a controlling part comes in, and we can feel that as tension. Just notice how that plays in all of our parts. And Kay's like, no, that's not it, Sid. What you got, Kay? Then I'd like to jump to Jack, Vender, and Meryl. What you got?
What I mean, I don't think this is not a safe place. What I think is something is happening with my parts, that I have the headache and I want to go to sleep.
Yes.
Usually I am scared. I feel fear because I cannot control the headache, or they wanted to go to sleep. But the word that came to me was acceptance. Acceptance now of every part. I think that when I said acceptance of the headache, it went away in this moment. And I don't want to go to sleep in this moment.
So is even that okay for us when the physical pain comes, when the headache comes in response to what's happening? Can we even, just like Kay said, can even that be accepted? Even that be accepted? Can there be okayness here, even when the headache is happening? Any final thoughts, Kay?
Because I was scared to death with such a heavy headache. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, I was super scared.
Yes.
I don't know what the parts want yet. I cannot understand it, but if I tell them it's going to be okay, that's wonderful. I feel it here opening, because everything is going to be okay for them.
Right. And so how about that line she said before that Kay said, I don't know what the parts want yet. Could you hear the compassion, the curiosity, the intimacy of meeting with the parts, just like what Sarah did for us? And what is it like for your system when there really is such a sincere interest? Like, I'm not really sure what the parts are wanting. I'm not sure what this is yet, but there's a curiosity. Thank you so much, Kay. I'd like to move on to get everybody in our final 12 minutes. And I just noticed, like, we barely heard anything from Vender today, and I feel like we've been deprived, and I don't like that. Vender, what you got for us?
I'm just enjoying the presence. Parts are coming up too. um, I'm organizing an event, but there's parts saying, are you going to do it right? Is it going to be okay? There's the parts. Part of me wanted to let go of control and let my couple family member to share the responsibility of the event. But there's doubt coming. There's the one part of me doubting, what I do is going to be okay.
How about that? I forget who said it earlier, that there were a number of parts and the tension between the parts. And so here we have it in Vendor, right? Can we see the theater of our parts? And are we able, I know we're a little tired. We've been together for an hour and 20 minutes, and maybe there's some exhaustion here. And at the same time, can like this Rumi's guest house without borders between our squares, can all of these precious expressions of Vendor be welcome, these parts? I need to do it right. Hey, I'm putting on this event. I need to do it right. Well, is it really going to be okay? Is it going to be okay? I need to part that needs to control things. Another one that says I need to let go of control. Another one that says I'm doubting. There's doubt here. Like all of these different expressions, can they all be welcomed? How about in your system, Vendor? Is there a welcoming of these precious expressions of you?
Yes, and there's some fear, anxiety just kind of coming up as I'm hearing all this, the welcoming part.
Mhm.
The anxiety also is kind of seems like something is blended. There's a fear.
Yes. So what about that? Because we just addressed a very similar thing in Kay when she described the control, the headache, the discomfort. And what we were looking at is, can we find okayness in the midst of these parts being here, in the midst of contraction and discomfort? And Vendor's pointing into her system. Wait a minute, there's fear and anxiety here. There's fear and anxiety. And there's probably parts that come up and say, "Oh, I don't like this. It'd be better if there wasn't fear and anxiety here." And however it plays, is it possible to find okayness, that even fear and anxiety being here, that it's not even a problem? There can still be okayness in the midst of the fear and anxiety. How about final question, Evan? How about that for you? Can that be touched? And then I want to kind of jump over to
Mhm.
Dick and Meryl.
Yes. There's an okay. I can have this. It's okay.
All right, that's it. And how about that, everybody? In okayness, in the midst of all of this, in the midst of Vendors putting on an event, there are all these parts. There's fear and anxiety. Wait a minute, there's still okayness here. This is so much of the game we're playing, to know this ever-presence of self. Thank you, Vendor. Let's just pop to Meryl, then we'll go to Jack. Meryl, how you doing again? First time with us. How's it going? How's it inside of you?
Thank you. I'm all right. I think that my strongest, the part that came up, and it was even at the very early on, just because of the space that you all created here, that like I definitely got this very, very strong feeling of this part that wanted to like run into the middle of the circle, and you all would be these like wise, accepting, people that could just let that part be and let that part grieve. Um, and then all the other parts that came up about like that's not appropriate. Um, you know, you're a grown up. It's definitely really helped parts of me speak that often don't get a chance just because there's never even like the glimpse of safety that makes them feel like they can raise their hand. And so I really appreciate that.
That's what we do here. We're like, hey, it's your turn. You're in the middle of the circle. Whatever parts of yours that just want to be and be held in this love, any parts that want to grieve, any parts that are sad, they're all welcomed here. And it goes deeper than that. It goes deeper than that, because we're just We're getting your system used to self, used to being welcomed by self. And then the idea is we're helping our systems find that that's all inside of ourselves, that sense of running into the middle of the circle. And hey, look at me, I'm frustrated, I'm sad. That the self is here inside of you to do the same thing, to welcome. And this is, we're just practicing, we're playing a game here. And we love that. If you come back, yes, we want you in the middle of the circle and all your parts in the middle of the circle. Thank you, Meryl.
Thank you.
Jack, it's all you.
Oh, wow. What what came up really strongly for me is, I guess the part it's a protector part that's saying, well, well, just be clear, all you parts, that loving is not necessarily being a doormat. Okay, the part that the protector that'll make that really clear, and then the other part that said, okay, so people are throwing this word love and loving around a lot, and it's got such a different meaning to so many people and the way you think about it, that I just wanted to be really clear about at least what I thought I meant about it, and how the way I think about it maybe doesn't always match up with what I'm hearing from other people, right? So I typically, because of the way I think about it, um, I really don't have any fear myself about the feeling of loving, because for me, I mean, I was thinking about someone that I just love, and that feeling feels so good, right? I don't have any fear about feeling that way. And that doesn't mean I'm a doormat. That doesn't mean that I'll always do whatever this person wants to have happen. Sometimes that would be stupid. That wouldn't be loving them if they're doing something really crazy. I know well, guess what? That's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So I'm really happy that there's no sense of fear of loving, right?
Isn't that awesome, Jack? That your system has a sense of it, like it can do its boundaries. Our parts, our protectors can come and say, we're not a doormat, but it can have that sense of safety, so that the love that everybody sees. I mean, look at Jack. It just is love. It's just this love that he is, can express, and it could have free reign. It's awesome.
That's what came up for me, and I just really feeling fortunate. I try not to be, just try to have gratitude for that as opposed to feeling guilty, which I don't really feel so much anymore. For a while, that was going on, that I'd feel guilty when someone would talk about a problem or something that they were really fearing, and I would think, I'm just really glad I don't feel that. And so I feel guilty about that, but that's happening less and less. So yeah, I'll share that. I trust you all enough to share that with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is it okay for us just to be, if someone's suffering, just to be the love that we are? Just to be love, just to be this love. What about that? Can we celebrate that in Jack when he just is? And isn't it lovely? It's like Meryl's system. It holds the space for her parts. They get to come into the center and they get to bathe in the love of Jack and Vinder and Kay and Sid and Meryl. It's like this gift we get to give each other. Down to 2 minutes. Anything bubbling? Any final words?
Gratitude for the space and the opportunity for me to organize this event. We're celebrating my grandson's arrival into this planet. So
It has been a real privilege exploring, playing, celebrating, holding each other today, resonating. Thank you for your gifts. Thank you for where you took us all and what you showed us all through your system. And have a great day, everybody. See you later.
Thank you.